Welcome back to our Chapter 9 Eurasia, Part 2 recording. We are going to be talking about population and settlement in this section. So there's 6 different states comprising the Russian domain, and population is predominantly urban in this region. And we do have very distinctive distributions of natural resources. There's also strong migratory patterns that really have shaped the population geography. There's also governmental policies that have helped to shape the population as well and where they are. One thing that is of importance, and I'm actually going to go back to a slide because I had not mentioned it before, was the Trans-Siberian Railroad. So here we have in this, I think it's like a purple, is the Trans-Siberian Railroad. And this was a major construction running the railroad from Moscow all the way through the Ural Mountains. And there is a slight break in elevation that it does go through. And it's a very long railroad system. And again, reminding you, Russia does span 11 different time zones. So there's a lot of latitudinal area that it spans. So it comes down south, and it does come down south in the country because, of course, north is the conditions are too cold, and we have freezing ground, and then also occasionally thawing of the ground, and that could pose problems. That does pose problems to roads and obviously a railroad as well. So the railroad does travel close to the southern border here. It does split off a little bit. It splits in two to go around Lake Baikal. We have a northern route and then a southern route. Okay, so we have the Baikal-Amur mainland, the BAM Railroad, which is a northern route, and then the Trans-Siberian Railroad, which is the southern route along the border of China. And it ends up here on the far east coast, and it even extends down to as far south as Russia territory goes in this far southeastern city. Okay, so coming back, so the railroad was a major played a major role in where our population in this region is. We do again have favorable agriculture areas again in the here in Western region. So we can see we have quite a bit more population in the Western region. And following the path of the railroad, we do have some population sparsely scattered, but that along the railroad is where we have our population. We do not have much population in Siberia. Let me see if I finished everything on this slide. Yes, I believe so. Okay, so around the European core, what we call, and so this is the western portion here, the European core, and this is really anything west of the Ural Mountains. And so in this area, we have a lot of large cities, and we do have a lot of big industrial complexes located here. Again, this is where we have most of our productive agriculture and farms located. And not only agriculture supplying the Eurasia population, but also the European population. There are many locations that have strong connections with Western Europe. And there are key urban clusters located specifically along rivers such as the Volga and the Dnieper. And also, just incidentally, Moscow has about 9 million in population, and St. Petersburg has approximately 5 million in population. Then when we look towards the Siberian area, it is very sparsely settled. There are key urban centers along the Trans-Siberian Railroad, as well as the Baikal-Amur mainland railroad. Okay, so that was where the Trans-Siberian Railroad split, and the Baikal-Amur is the northern route. So mostly west of the Ural Mountains and in cities where we have the best agriculture, that is where we have our population settlements. And yes, okay. So here's just some images. We have an image of the traffic in Moscow, and here are some tall buildings in the city of Baku, and we can see the urbanization that has taken place there. Now, in looking at migration patterns, this is there's been a considerable amount of movement over the past 150 years. So let's first talk about eastward movement and movement of people moving toward the east. So we do have an ongoing eastward movement from the Russian core areas, such as Moscow area. And this movement is moving across Siberia. It's been accelerated by the completion of the Trans-Siberian Railroad. And during the Soviet era, there were a lot of what we called resettlement schemes for economic reasons. Now, some pull factors in migration are always going to be farming and political freedom and such. So possibly people were moving for some of these reasons. Now, in terms of political movements, leaders historically have actually relocated populations for political reasons. And some of these reasons could also be for just to gain political power. There were also several forced migrations that were associated with the prison system. And so a prison sentence would be for forced migration and forced labor of people moving toward and into Siberia. And actually, and incidentally, I should also mention that during the Soviet era, there was no freedom of movement. So people could not decide on their own where they were going to be moving to and from. And we did have a period where we had minorities or any people that were viewed as a threat to the existing regime. They were put into slave labor in Siberia as well. We also had a movement called Russification, and this was where it was a Soviet policy of resettling Russians into non-Russian portions of the Soviet Union. And this was done to increase the Russian dominance in the area, into the relocated area. So we can see different areas and different routes of migration from this slide. Now, in post-Soviet era, there's been many migrations that have actually reversed. So I just mentioned the Russification and the Soviet policy of moving Russians into non-Russian areas. And then post-Soviet era, a lot of these migrations have people have moved back to their homelands. We also have ethnic Russians returning to Russia. That's what I was just talking about. And newer immigrants also into Russia as well. There's complex flows of undocumented immigrants. And we also see Chinese immigrants moving into Russia's Far East. There is an urban attraction where we do have a considerable amount of urbanization happening during we did have a considerable amount of urbanization happening during the Soviet era. And cities grew really because of governmental plans, and the plans were carried out, and cities and urbanization grew considerably. There was large clusterings of economic and government activities based on these plans. And then with the collapse of the Soviet Union, it's really allowed for a more freedom of movement since then. Now, when we look inside the Russian cities, we do have large Russian cities that contain a core with very well planned out transportation. And some of these cities do exhibit some pre-Soviet landscapes, such as in this Moscow subway, we have some art in the subway. And so this is a pre-Soviet example. Then farther from the cities, we do have large Soviet era housing projects, large housing projects. And these are really meant to be self-contained communities with stores, and they were built in the 1970s and 80s, and they were about between like 10 to 24 stories high. And typically they were about 45 minutes to an hour from the city center. And the Soviets really carefully planned these cities, giving them actual population limits of approximately 1 million per city. So there has been considerable urban growth occurring on the metropolitan peripheries, outside the city proper. And this is where we're seeing the elite and the wealthy have houses such as suburbs. And oftentimes they will, have their families outside in the suburbs and then work inside. This is more for the elite. And they have country homes outside city centers. Now, looking at the demographics, there was a population loss since the 1990s. The Russian government really views any kind of population loss as a crisis on their population numbers. And there have been attempts to raise birth rates. However, because of the economic uncertainty, it actually, well, with economics and uncertainty, birth rates continue to go down. There's also relatively high death rates in the region due to healthcare problems and other such problems. So we have low birth rates and very high death rates, mostly among the middle age. There's high death rates among middle age males. And some of the causes of this are a loss of having a low social connection. And this could be due to what I mentioned previously, prior forced migration. So there's a loss of social connection. There's also a declining health in females. We also see a lot of social stresses in the region. High rates, I should say, of alcoholism, high rates of heart disease. There's also high rates of crime and an increase in suicide. And then as well, we mentioned it in the prior section, people are living in a very toxic environmentally toxic situations. So that would all play into higher death rates as well. And also in the midst of that, people choosing not to reproduce and resulting into lower birth rates. Okay, that was a short section, but I'm going to close there and continue with section 3.